All right, dear guys, let's get this started then, right?
Because really, what could go wrong once you press record, right?
Exactly. What could go wrong? It's all got to be very perfect.
All right, Austin. Thank you so much for being here in another episode of Crazy People Doing a Podcast. My name is Maurice, and with me is my partner in crime or partner in madness, Russ the Menace.
Craziness. Absolutely.
And today we have our dear friend from Louisville and guest named Austin. And since I'm German, I strike out when it comes to your last name. So please
Okay.
help me out.
I'll give you a pass. It's Lopesilvero.
But hey, let's talk about you a little bit more. We kind of stumbled into your nerdiness and the joint nerdiness of the people that are here on this little cast right now. And but give us some background, because you kind of had it shine through with websites and programming, but I know there's more, so please share that with us.
Yeah. I would say I've always been on a journey of trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. That started with everything, your traditional kid things, firefighter, astronaut. I think that Lego Mindstorms with the Mars mission definitely probably contributed to that. And then, even throughout school, everything from wanting to work as a FBI agent to an adolescent psychologist to, I have no idea, still trying to figure it out. But as I got to applying for college, being kind of the smart kid in the school that I went to, it was just kind of like, oh, the smart kids go to U of L engineering speed school. Like that's where everyone goes. Like you're going to get a scholarship. That's where you go. That's what you do. And then you'll be an engineer. And so I did that. And during my time at the university, I got involved with a few organizations on campus, fraternities, student government, and found kind of an apprenticeship, if you will, for creative and marketing. And through that opportunity, I really found that I enjoyed the creative side and also realized, oh, like you can get paid for this. And the beauty of it was my mentor in that program had started his own business while he was in college. He was a senior about to graduate, and we hit it off really well. And so he kind of took me in as a freshman, sophomore in college to say, hey, I need help with these projects. You're picking this up really fast. And so the great thing that I realized was, wow, like with this marketing stuff, I can really kind of build my own schedule. It's not like going to work for a pizza shop or, serving or Best Buy where there's certain hours patrons are coming. Like I could work on a website between classes or on the weekends or late in the evenings, like whenever I wanted. So it really worked well with, the school class schedule until I realized that I enjoyed that more than going to class or studying for test or whatever. I just really loved it. And so that kind of led to some grades dropping. And then I was like, wait, I'm in this engineering program and I don't even like this stuff. And so I started pursuing some marketing and creative and business degrees. Actually ended up transferring schools to pursue media communication. That new school was incredibly expensive, private school, kind of south of Lexington. And halfway through that first semester, I was like, I can't afford to continue to go here. When I transferred schools, I lost all my scholarships. And so it was completely out of pocket for me. And I took that next year trying to pay that school back for that one semester. And during that time, got plugged into some local programs. One being a Code Louisville program, where it's cohort style, teaching you how to code. And I knew the fundamentals, but I was like, okay, maybe I can apply the creative side to and these like WordPress sites I was building. So if I understood the code and how this works, then I could probably build better sites. And also they had a great pipeline for companies. It's like, oh, I can go through this program and they'll connect me with a job and I can just fast track my career.
Yeah.
And it was during that year where I realized, wait, I'm getting paid to learn. And I just spent the past 2.5, 3 years paying someone else to teach me something that I might use one time at some point. And so that was a real light bulb moment for me, to really pursue self-learning, apprenticeship opportunities, and just really, kind of crafting your own future while still having that passion to learn. And ever since then, I've worked for small companies with over 1,400 people, companies where we were building websites for universities across the nation, all the way down to nonprofits that are doing community development, insurance, and we recently launched our own company called Aspen Studios, that is focused on marketing and content production. So that's a long, maybe, version of how we got here. But a lot of it is just, I'm a learner by doing, kind of school of hard knocks. Like, you can tell me something, but I kind of got to try it for myself. Drives my parents crazy, but I just got to try it. Got to get my hands on it. I'm like, oh, that is not the way to do that. Like, payroll taxes, good Lord. Wow. But you learn as you go, and because you're learning faster, but you're also getting stuff done and making impact.
So you had the super straightforward way of doing school, doing university, finishing it all, and then starting a job. No, hold up, that's not what it sounded like.
Yeah, so I tend to think that there are definitely some careers that a university is great for, and a degree program is great for, but I do think in a world where there's so much content available out there, training, and also people realizing, oh wait, I'm an expert in this and I can monetize it, like, that we're only going to continue to see, like during the time that we were at the company building sites for universities, the big thing was MOOCs, right? Like, massive open online courses or something. I can't remember the exact terms, but MOOCs. And so that was the first shift that we started to see in the education space. Now, with tools like Kajabi and Teachable and Thinkific, anyone can build a course, and anyone can charge for that course and share their expertise. And so we're really decentralizing education, in that you can learn just about anything online now, sometimes better than some of these courses, because a lot of times with universities, like, for example, when I was in the computer engineering program, we were learning C and C++. If you talk to any startup founder nowadays, they're building on React Native. They're building on, there's Go, like, there's all these languages, modern languages, that the university was not even getting close to teaching. I think the newest language that we were taught was C#. And it's like, in the world of programming, these new languages are coming up literally every day, and they're adding to it. And I don't think the university, with their accreditation process, and just being able to put a stamp, can keep up. But I think, when you have these industry professionals, that really allows you to learn, the newest thing quickly. And the beauty is, now companies have figured this out too. Is like, oh, if we can train people on how to use our product, then, now we have a really big stickiness. So, like, I've been, really curious about Bubble and Webflow as no code options. And so I've just been consuming hours and hours of videos online that both Webflow has built, but also their community has built. And I think we're only going to continue on that.
Yeah. Russ, is this point where I promote my New York Marketing Academy? Your place for
Exactly.
Oh, but it's 100% true, Maurice. And I think Austin is definitely one of the nerdiest creative guys I know. But it's that curiosity and hunger. So if I want to learn marketing, is it better for me to go and get a 4-year degree somewhere? Maybe there's value in that, but what if I just do like Austin did? Hey, I can get paid and I can learn. And now Maurice has this cool course online, right? And there's all this education and stuff out there. And I can just, as I go, and then maybe, you know what, after I've done that for a couple of years, then maybe I do want to go and get my degree or maybe my master's or whatever it might be, to further my education. But to get going and get up and running, there's nothing like it. It's way different than it was back in the 1300s when I was in college.
The other part of this is these marketplaces now for work, right? So I had the lucky opportunity where I, was an apprentice for a guy that had a company and gave me a shot. And I don't, not everyone has those opportunities. I do think networking is important, especially if you're not going to school, then you need to find groups that you can connect with and build your network. But now with, Fiverr, Upwork, there's quite a few freelance platforms now. In addition to that, now you have the opportunity for work, and these people are paying such little money that there's so much room for grace and for suck. Like there's no other way to say that. And like, that's good. I think people, need opportunities to make money and to build crappy things to get better and to get feedback, because when you do stuff for free, there's just a lot of weirdness to it where, people are a little hesitant to give you feedback, or they're expecting too much. But now with these, low cost platforms of Fiverr and Upwork, to at least break into an industry and try stuff out and get feedback, you have more opportunity now than ever to get in on small projects and still get paid for it and get feedback and grow. So I think now's the best time in the world to, if you're looking to try out marketing or try out creative or content or really just any career, like now's the time to go learn it on YouTube, find a course online, and take up a contract on Upwork or Fiverr.
Yeah, actually,
And
go ahead, Russ.
yeah, no, I was going to say, and sometimes even better than that, is you can try it and see if you like it too.
Yep. Exactly.
One of the difficulties with college is you kind of go for a couple of years before you start to actually get into your stuff, and then you're like, maybe I don't like this so much.
Yeah, you do like 2 years of gen eds, and then you finally take a course somewhat related to your degree, but it's an intro class, and then you're 3 years in, and it's like, well, I only have 60 hours left. Like, or I don't even know how college works. I don't know what your last year amount of hours is.
If you just say there's 60 hours, you'd go like, yeah, he sounds like a college guy.
So yeah, you can try it out. And I suggest that. I think we need more organizations that are partnering with community groups that need work done to pop up and provide that support. And that's really the genesis of what Aspen was founded to be. Was we wanted to partner, organizations that had work that needed to be done with newer developing talent, and then provide a layer of support through a mentor network, and then fund the thing through big corporate that needed a talent pipeline. That's not what it ended up being. I still kind of pursue that periodically on the side. We just had trouble with the revenue on that. It was, talent development can be a really long form play, but we still tinker on that idea because there's so much work out there that needs to be done, and there's so many people just looking for an opportunity. And so how do we pair those groups together? But the missing part is that mentorship that can say, hey, tell me how you did this, tell me why, and then speak into them.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of platforms like Fiverr, right? On one hand, you obviously have to do more to get good quality out of it, because you have to be very precise with briefing and help them to get along. But I like the opportunity to mentor people and to help them along and to build a relationship with them, where you can almost be like their constant revenue and see them grow along with that. And on the same side, you mentioned university. I have a lot of people, or in my career, I taken on a lot of people fresh from university, and knowing that I only would have them on my team for like 2 years or something like that, and that it's great because they're young and they're really eager to do stuff, but you really have to train them. Yes, they have a degree, maybe they even have a master's degree, right? But they don't know how to work yet. Right? And they don't know how to get rid of everything that they learned at university, essentially, and being able to let the self-ego go and focus on a customer and or the task at hand, right? And that is something that I find very interesting about what you said. We have that different line of entering workforce, just like myself, where it's not all straight in a straight line, right? The traditional way, let's call it that way. You could almost say the old-fashioned way.
Yeah. Russ, is that right?
The old-fashioned way. I'll vouch for that. Yes.
Okay.
The old-fashioned, old-fashioned way.
Yeah, but at the same time, so how do you balance that? And I know how I did it for me, but I want to know it from you first. How do you balance that challenge of, because sometimes whenever you're dealing with customers, and especially for your new company, Aspen Studios, right? The bigger the customers get, the more, especially if you have older counterparts that you talk to, they expect you to speak their language and use their phrasing and so on. And at the beginning, that can be intimidating, but how do you get out of that, right? Of that kind of like very tight framework, to tell them like, hey, listen, guys, things are changing. You got to do it my way. Yeah,
it's we really try and always start with messaging, and our first meeting with every kind of client it's a long one, but we call it our client discovery meeting, where we are trying to understand their business and what their pain points are in their business, to really start developing a plan and hearing, all right, how well are they able to speak about their business? Because if they're struggling, then how can we expect their customers to understand what they do? So typically that meeting will lead to a messaging kind of series of meetings where we're working with them to really hone in their message so they can speak clearly to their customers in a way that their customers are speaking. I think, industry jargon, and, speaking in a way that what you're talking about, but to your customers, are you all talking in the same language? You might be saying the same thing and answering the same questions, but if you're in two different languages, like there's a barrier there. And we really have to move our clients, the companies, or nonprofits, into speaking their customers' language, because that's where you're going to start getting action, or activation or revenue. So we it's a lot of reworking, kind of like how they're wired to make themselves not be the hero, but allow their customers to be the hero. And then the company serves as the guide. And that all follows Donald Miller's story brand kind of framework, which I'm certified in. And it's been huge. Like once, and it's a light switch kind of moment. You can see it click with someone where like, oh, I'm not the hero, they are. And they start using, the framework really well and seeing results quickly. So that's always where we start, is we want to help businesses, organizations really clarify, what their message is in a way that resonates and activates their customer base. From there, then we run, because we have a solid foundation, and we'll put it into marketing, websites, email, print, branding, whatever their initial needs are, which again comes out of that discovery. And then we do what I call fun marketing, and that's the content side, is really allowing their personality to show through, through podcasts, through courses, through videos, and really showcasing who they are. But you're right, it takes a little bit of rewiring on that side. And then on the talent side, you just got to know that like there's going to be a learning time, and whether you're hiring someone off Upwork or Fiverr or someone straight out of school, they do not know everything you know, and they also don't know how you work. And so there is going to be kind of that transition time to teach them and bring them up to speed, which can be really frustrating for a fast moving entrepreneur or business leader. But by putting in that early time, you're saving exponentially more later. And it's one I'm learning the hard way right now as we're in the process of hiring a VA.
Yeah, I mean, I had a perfectly well thought out follow-up question, but you said the word Brent. And I was like, huh. Are you still doing Brent stuff before I continue with the actual question that I wanted to follow up?
The branding work, Reagan, who's our designer, loves brand work, and so she'll do the visual, but I think branding is both visual and also what people think about you. What are those trigger moments, like when someone has that pain, are they thinking of you? And that is both a branding exercise from a visual identity. Can they see your logo in their mind when they feel that pain? But it's also, when I want good ice cream, I'm getting graders, right? Like their chocolate, right? Like it's a branding exercise. That's like food related. I'm kind of, ready for some ice cream despite the cold. But, or if it's when my when my project load feels like chaos, teamwork can help me organize it, which is a project management tool. Or like for some of our clients, like we work with a company called vSimple that does they're basically a process management tool. And so when our workload feels like chaos and things are getting stuck, or people are not putting data into the work order that I need to do my step, vSimple can help. When processes are failing, vSimple can help. And so branding is both visual, but it is also, words. Because words are the foundation of our society. And so how do we use words to effectively get people to remember who we are, the problem we solve, and how we make their life better?
You mentioned young talent. So what I appreciate, because I'm pretty sure I'm a couple of days older than you are. What I appreciate about bringing on new talent is their perspective and their much more natural way of doing things differently, right?
Yep.
And that is something that I came to appreciate, and I'm more than willing to invest the time to bring them on and to really make them see, okay, this is the business world, but at the same time, don't lose whatever you bring naturally because of who you are as a person, who you are as in terms of a talent, and what your background is and what you do on a daily basis with one of these devices, right? So the thing that I liked of what you said there is really how you try to turn this around and don't make this about you, right? It's about the customer, it's about the audience that you talk to. So how do you bring that across? Because every time I have a young person in front of me or an older person in front of me, right? It's on either side of the scope, kind of, right? Mostly on the customer side. How do you get them there that they understand to let's go of self and focus on the audience?
Well, I'm sure Russ as a sales guy is really going to appreciate this, but at the end of the day, you just have to figure out what do they really want and how you can help them get that. It's like, as humans, we're generally pretty self-serving, and we're trying to figure out how can we take care of ourselves. There are points to that I would challenge even as I say that, but we all want something. And so whether it's, someone that's younger than us or someone that's older, like how can we identify what they want and how can we help them get there? And so once you figure that out, then you can reverse engineer of, okay, here's what we need to do to get there. So for, for like, if you're bringing in young talent, it's like, well, most likely, and have a conversation for one, but if you're going into the conversation kind of assuming, most likely they want to have a great career, or they want to make good money, or they just want the opportunity to prove themselves. So how can you connect, this lesson that you're teaching, or this engagement, or this opportunity to that, and just reverse engineer of, I know, having a lucrative career is probably important to you. Along my journey, I've learned these things that will help. And here's a quick tip that, you might be able to implement. I think that kind of principle goes both ways. Russ, I don't know if, is that you're the
It
sales
does.
guy. So
Yeah, no, it works. It works as you're talking with young talent to try to help them line up with the customer and the business vision. And it works for customers when you're trying to line them up with your product vision. You say, hey, what's the problem you're experiencing here? Well, I have a flat tire. Well, that's cool. I have a tire store, right? Let's figure out how to repair that, or get you a new tire, whatever you need, right? So it's that same thing of how do you get what you need in a business context. And I think in your customer context, it's more about how do I get to the next step in my goal, whether that's I need some new customers, I need some more revenue, I'm opening a new location, whatever that might be. In the career side, though, it's a lot about how do I get from I just got my degree, now I really want some experience and I want to learn some stuff in the field. I want to prove myself, or I want to I want to buy a house. And so how do I get a stable enough career that I can go and make that kind of a purchase, whatever it is, right? So everybody has something that they want. Usually many somethings.
Yeah.
Right. You just got to find out how you line up together, right?
Yeah. And I was talking to kind of a sales director person recently. I'm on a journey of understanding how the sales teams of organizations work. So that way, as marketing teams, we can figure out how to better support them, especially as an external group that's typically working with the company that will have marketing and sales team of, how do we support both, knowing that, at the end of the day, can we help that company produce revenue? And then again, reverse engineer it. Well, to produce revenue, we have to have, the sales team has to get good leads and, be equipped to make that sale. We have to provide them good leads. And so I've lately been trying to understand the sales side of the organization. And he just reminded me, he's like, everything you need to know to, battle even the biggest ego of salespeople. And he's like, the reason is because that all you have to do is help them get what they want. What do they want? They want sales. So if you can provide them good quality proven leads, they are probably willing to try your system because they just want the sales. And so like it doesn't have to be a battle. You just have to really take time to, listen to them and understand what they really want, and, prove also yourself the value that you can bring to them to help them get there. And then once you have that little bit of trust built, then you just keep adding to it and growing, okay, well, here's not only a good lead, but here's a sales script you might want to use. Oh, you don't like how that's worded? Okay, let's work on this collaboratively, where I can bring in my framework that I know works, and you can bring in your expertise that works. So it's all about just taking time to, find what people want and help them get there.
Yeah, if there are 20,000 sales organizations in your market, I'll guarantee you there are at least 100,000 sales processes, because every company has a couple. And if you try to get in that way and say, well, I'm gonna help you solve your process, it's very difficult. But if you approach it from the human angle and say, hey, what is it that you're after as an individual salesperson? What is it that your organization is after as a sales organization? What is it that your company is after as a company? And then how do we line those things up? And then the process and the other pieces and the marketing and the sales programs and everything else all can kind of fall out of that. As long as, but many people, just read LinkedIn, you'll see many people think about the sales process first, rather than hey, I'm a human trying to talk to another human to solve a human problem. How about we just work on that, right? So
I do think so often we forget the humanity in business, and get tied up in the systems and the OKRs and KPIs and other acronyms. But it's like,
we have all the cool software, right? So
right.
shouldn't we instead just be the servants of the software? No,
exactly.
no,
Like
no,
there's a human on the other side of this that is going to read this, make a decision, be a human.
Yeah. Austin, if you keep talking like this, you end up in sales. You know that.
I know. I highly doubt it, but as an entrepreneur, that is one of the hats that sometimes I have to wear, and I hate every second of it. But it leads to revenue, so I'll put that hat on.
I'm just giving you that fair warning here, because that's how I ended up spending half my day in sales now. Even though I call myself a lifelong marketing nerd, maybe customer success, but sales was,
It's a triad though, really, right? It's all one team, and that's a core principle of account-based marketing is how do we get the whole company on board in our marketing, from creating new clients to closing them to keeping them, and re-nurturing them, and then repeat. And I think so many times you have organizations where it's marketing versus sales, and like, marketing, why aren't you doing this? And sales, why aren't you doing anything with what we give you? And customer success is like, can I get some help, guys? And they're both like, shut up, we're doing our thing. And really it takes all three, to prevent churn, to help with expansion, and just grow revenue as a whole. Like, we're all on the same team, driving to personal and business growth.
And sometimes that's quite literally that you're all on the same team, but that's an entirely different story. So how did you end up? How did you end up founding your company?
Yeah, because you had like a perfectly like normal, good paying, well paying job, like with a
arguably
steady company, and that's crazy, man. Tell us the crazy story.
Where's the argument in that? That's what
the well paying. No, it's funny. When I left my previous role, there was a lot of reasons for that. And I kind of had, okay, well, when I start my own company, here's what that's going to look like. I'm going to work normal hours. We're going to treat people well. We're going to have ethics. We're going to like, I have this whole list. Most of that has come into play, except for the whole 40 hours. You end up working a lot more, but you're at least investing into yourself and casting the vision of your business and building what you want, rather than necessarily contributing to someone else. But I think with good culture, with good leadership, you can still invite people, so we're all contributing and have meaning and purpose and passion behind building an organization that isn't just the founder's desire. And so that's what we're trying to build here, is give our team ownership and also insight, and a safe space to give feedback also of, no, that's annoying, or no, we shouldn't do that, or hey, we should probably fire this client, or whatever, like speaking with one voice and valuing everyone's opinion, but also truly investing in our team. That's really important for us also, is not only from a compensation standpoint, but opportunity, skill set, rest is super important. And I think that's often forgotten, is investing into your team for the opportunity for rest and breaks. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Also, there must have been moments where we're like, why am I doing this? I had a job. There's
for sure moments. For me, it's the famous laying on the couch, I could work at Kroger story, where Kroger's like a grocery store here. And as an entrepreneur, you're kind of always on. You always have these ideas, and or problems, or different things going on. There's always plenty of work. And there was one day I got so overwhelmed of there was so much to do. There was like some okay, where's the money type thing, like this person hasn't paid, and I just was so overwhelmed. And I was like telling my wife, I remember laying on my living room couch, which is not very comfortable, but that was where I was at, and saying, babe, would you still love me if I bag groceries at Kroger? She's like, what are you talking about? And I was like if I just quit all this and shut down the company and just went and bagged groceries at Kroger, would you still love me? She's like, shut up, you're not going to do that. Go to work. And I was like, no, for real. And she's like, look, I know it feels hard, but you always push through and persevere. But my reason for asking that question was, if you bag groceries at Kroger, the odds of you going home and be like, man, I should have put that bacon next to the eggs, or I don't think I should have put that rotisserie chicken next to the ice cream. I doubt that someone is thinking that, right? You go to work, you do the job, you check out, and then you come home. So that was my reason for asking. And her whole point was this is you will get through this, persevere, you have everything you need. And so we frequently come back to that story of bagging groceries at Kroger, which it needs to be done. And I've met some great people through that. I'm not dogging that career path. I'm just saying, I don't know, if they're thinking about what they did that day when they go home.
I can so relate, and Russ, you probably too. I can so relate to that moment. Wouldn't it be easier if we just were doing this instead of giving into our nuttiness, right?
Yep. But I do think community is so important, and then having a strong support network. I definitely understand, why these groups, investment firms, VCs want a co-founder, because as a single founder, it's hard. We went the route of building a team early, and so our team is our direct support network, but also our community, our startup ecosystem here. We have an event called Founder Beers, where it's only founders of businesses. There's no service providers. There's no, other team members. It's only founders, for us to meet up monthly and share what are your struggles, or how are you solving this, or what tool are you using. Celebrate the wins, and also help each other through those hard times. And so I think community support is so important when you have these crazy ideas to get through them.
Austin, I think success is awesome. You celebrate the wins, and sometimes I find I learn more from failure.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a story where you just ran into a wall, fell over something, a big mistake, but it taught you something. You learned something.
Yeah. I would say there's two stories that come to mind, both related. So I guess I didn't really learn the first time. But it was, two different projects where we got hung up on the details of it, and it wanting to be perfect. And that held me up early in the project, and it delayed the project. And then because of the delays, I would get stressed. And so you would have less progress, because now you're operating in an unhealthy, mental space. And that led to a cancellation of the project entirely, refund of revenue, or money that they paid on the deposit. So not only did you have the mental failure of the project going south, you also had the money side. And one thing that taught me is done is better than perfect. But the other thing is just the value of communication, to say, hey, we're struggling with this. Can we meet so we can work through this, like content area, or hey, we got caught up on this. So I think communication is super important. Communicate early, communicate often, and communicate clearly, even if it sucks, even if it's hard, even if it's admitting these like moments of failure, frustration. In the times that I've communicated since about a hold up or a question, the client's been like, oh yeah, that's quick, that's an easy fix, here, let me send this over, oh just do this, and it's like, oh my gosh, like they're not mad, they don't think I'm the worst person, like I think we get in our own heads so much too, and we forget to give ourselves grace, and we also can forget, like, we are talented, that's why they hired us. We don't totally suck. Like I think you just get in this mental kind of squirrel cage, and so communicate early, and done is better than perfect. Have a good support network, and just don't give up. But if you hit a spot, communicate, and if you need to call it, but do it early, so that way everyone's in a better space. But give yourself grace. So I learned a lot from those experiences.
Hey Russ, my German side of my brain cannot compute the done is better than perfect part of it.
Oh yeah, it is incredibly hard. And so a helpful rule is like, are we at 70%? If you need to up the percent, you can. Are we at 75? Are we at 80? And also, I think where it's also been helpful is thinking like a business owner of like, okay, is this worth our time investment to continue on this, or are we going to be losing money because we're not working on other stuff? Is this costing us too much? Are we over budget on this? Like, can we just ship it? And if we do ship it in its current state, what can we learn by shipping it early? And so, I think there's so much value in like Scrum methodology, or Agile, and then Scrum is part of it.
And I know there's plenty of times in my life where I've written something, or I've generated a sales presentation, or I've done something like that, and I've spent hours and hours. I worked late night to make it just perfect, and then I sent it off, and somebody else is like, "Well, no, you need a period after every bullet point. Oh, I need to capitalize this and lowercase that." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." But if I go like, this is pretty good, I'm going to send it to these guys to go and look at. Then when they make those kind of edits, I'm like, that's cool. That's we're all working on it together. But when I do perfect, then it's my baby. Don't tell me my baby's ugly, and that's that can be troublesome when your baby might not be so pretty.
I went through that lesson many moons ago when I had my agency, and one of my partners, he was actually working at Dustin Consulting Group. So he taught me how to do PowerPoints, right? And he would be something I remember for Daimler Chrysler, we had this big presentation, and I came up with this 80 slide deck, right? And he was like, hey, great, here's a couple of points that I have for you. And those couple of points would be almost as long as my deck. And I was like, oh, geez. And he would do that over and over and over again. And I was like, yeah, I need to hand that over to him earlier so I can get that feedback in, so I don't invest hours and hours upon hours, right? Where I'm like, it doesn't matter what I do, it's never going to be perfect. And so why don't I kick it out earlier and see what my audience thinks about it, right? So that's why I like my German side is still like, no, needs to be perfect, needs to compute, right? But my American side is like, let's be fast, right? Let's fail fast, let's do it quickly and get the results and get the feedback in and know what the market thinks, right?
Yeah. Russ, can you imagine if he spent some time in Georgia? Oh, honey, it'll be all right. Just a little bit of time in the South, and I mean, I think you'd counterbalance your German side. It'd be a good balance. No,
bless his heart.
Right.
All right, Austin. I think there was an absolute pleasure meeting you, talking to you, and listening to what it is that you do and how you got to eventually founding your own company.
Mhm.
I really, really appreciate what you're doing. But I know, did I see that right? You have your own podcast too. You have your own outlets.
So we do a lot of podcasts for our clients. We have some ideas around our own podcast shows, and so once that comes into fruition, I'll update you on the link, and you can update the show notes. The exciting part about that is this is our first full day in our new office, which we got intentionally to be able to record and capture podcasts and videos. Since then, like before then, we've been co-working or producing in our client's office. Now we have our own space to create our own podcast. So that idea will probably come into fruition much quicker now. And so we can
within the next hour or two, maybe.
I mean, I have the setup now, so it could.
The mic is standing up, so let's go. Yeah.
Yes. But I'll let you know. In the meantime, grow with Aspen on all social media.
There you go. One quick question that Maurice likes to ask that I'll ask in the last 1 minute before we go here. If you had one sentence to tell your 16-year-old self, 18-year-old self, what would you do? What would you say?
Oh.
Not a whole big lesson, not a book, just one little statement.
Learn to communicate well and often with friends, family, friends, clients, but really invest in communication skill sets, but do it often. I think, especially like with family, that's something I can always get better at, but it's also not just the touch points, but the quality of the touch points. And that applies to friends, to clients, to team members, community members. And so I'd say really work on those skill sets. And if I had done that earlier in life, I think
There you go. Awesome. Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Austin.
Appreciate it.